right, thank you so much, Ilanu. We're going to be moving on to the full stack pathway and Team Runtime Terror with Hannah Zhang. She was a high school intern as well. Hannah, take it away.
Awesome. So I'm Hannah. I'm a junior in California, and this summer I was part of the July Full Stack Pathway team called RunTimeTerror, and I'll be sharing my experiences. In this presentation, I'll be talking about the process of my internship, including the organization of the teams and the tools we decided to use. And then after that, I'll be talking about our actual projects, including the first and second development sprint. So to begin, we split our team into sub-teams headed by leads. Each of these sub-teams was assigned a specific feature to develop, which were then developed in short sprints, with each sprint lasting about a week. At the start of each sprint in a team meeting, we did a review of all the backlogs and the features we planned to work on for the next week. We kept track of all team members in the team with self-assessments and milestone posts on the STEMway platforms, as well as feedback and reflection time during meetings. Part of the July Full Stack Pathway, we were tasked to work with and develop into the Discourse codebase, which is an open source forum code with a very active community. Discourse is co-founded by Jeff Atwood, who is also the co-founder of Stack Exchange. Discourse now has over 150 communities and over 12 million users, some of which are shown above, including Atom, Twitter developers, Rust, Docker, and Ember.js. However, with Discourse, we met our first challenge, which was getting it installed. Although the installation instructions were simple enough, I ran into issues with almost every command. Through much debugging and internet searches, each of the team members finally got it installed. Additionally, another useful resource we utilized was Theme Creator, which was a site by Discourse that allowed users to create and experiment with various themes. So when Discourse wasn't working well, or we simply wanted to access information quickly, we could use this site, which actually did not require any installations. Going into the July 2020 internship, I pretty much had no idea what was going on. The only thing I knew in programming was Java, and that was pretty much useless here. But luckily, there was a page on STEMaway with a bunch of helpful videos that introduced vital concepts to me. First, there were guides to installing Discourse and really helpful videos to help with the whole debugging process. The next section included guides on how to start building stuff for Discourse, like themes and plugins, and I was able to follow these guides to get a lot done. And lastly, there were other resources for real-world applications, and these videos taught me various programming languages and about GitHub and AWS. And from this compilation of resources, I was able to gain a lot of knowledge and catch up with many older peers who already knew this. This summer, we managed remote teams of 14 spread out over different time zones. And so we had to use project management tools in order to work on the project as efficiently as possible and establish the project timeline. So we used Trello to assign tasks, G Suite to organize meetings and take notes, Slack and Discord for communication, and GitHub to bring our project all together. For our project, we worked on developing multiple theme components on the open source Discord codebase, and our development was divided into 2 sprints. In our first sprint, we worked on the 3D shadow box feature for the STEMway website. On the left, you can see how the STEMway text box looks like this, and then on the right are the changes we made to give a 3D shadow layout, which simply allows the usual text presented to stand out a little bit. For the second sprint, we worked with the navigation bar that the UX pathway had designed in the June session. As seen, the problem was that a lot of important tabs like messages and notifications were hard to find since they were all clustered under the profile tab, which was rarely visited. The idea was to redesign the navigation bar, as you can see on the bottom, so that the tabs would be easier to access by putting them outside of the profile icon. So our first step was to remove the glyphs and setting the default view to the profile team. At first, major features including notifications and messages were all under the profile tab as seen here. And what we did was remove those 2 features so that when we clicked on the profile icon, it would simply take you to the profile tab and it wouldn't show you notifications or messages. The next step was to move the notifications and messages buttons outside so that the nav bar looks more clean and less cluttered. So basically, instead of having them under the M right here, we moved them into the general nav bar. And we did this by using the inspect element to determine the functions that were being used to generate these icons. And then we hooked into the discourse code base to modify it. As seen, notification and message icons are in the main navigation bar, and the drop-down menu here allows users to go directly on the notifications or messages page. Currently, this theme component is also being implemented on the STEMway platform, which I think is really cool. So this concludes my presentation on my experience with the full stack pathway, and after this, we'll be going on to Q&A.
All right, thank you so much, Hannah. That was really useful information for all of our students who are interested in full stack. Again, if you guys have any questions, put them in the Q&A and Hannah can answer them for you.
Thank you. So full stack happens to be one of my favorite pathways simply because when I started STEMaway, I had to build some product to start with in order to get traction on the startup. And my background is in hardware engineering. In order to really create the first STEMaway platform, I had to do a huge dive into full stack pathway. So in many ways, that is a pathway which is close to my heart to some sense because that is how I created STEMaway. Hannah, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions to see how your experience matched with mine when I was getting started. What do you think is one of the first tools that helped you get started in this? So there has been a whole lot of questions about how to learn programming and things like that. But specific to full stack, is there any tool that you found useful? The one that I found very useful was Inspect, and I want to see if, did you discover Inspect by any chance? Or is there any other tool that you found very useful?
Yeah, I would say the inspect element was actually really helpful because the discourse code base is huge and there's no way that I'd actually be able to find the specific like function or thing that I'm looking for. But with inspect, you can just hover over it and it tells you what function is being used and then you can easily find it, which definitely made things a lot easier. And I'd say that in general, because going into the internship, I didn't have very much experience with full stack, the project resources on the STEMway platform, which was basically a page with a bunch of resources on various programming languages and discourse. That was really helpful since I could look through the guides or look through the videos and just really be able to get a deeper understanding, especially with developing theme components. I think there's just like not too much on the internet that I found, especially since it's unique to discourse, but luckily there's a page from the discourse community that really had all of this and I was able to follow really clear instructions and just get started. So that was very helpful.
Very nice. And thank you so much, Hannah. I know you did an incredible job, not just full stack, you were also part of the UX pathway. I've been through both your self-assessments and that, a very good job.